I had BlackRock on stage at Consensus, and they basically said, yeah, we told our guys to stand down on Ethereum a month before it got approved because we were like, it's not happening, we're not going to waste our resources on it.
Bitcoin specifically should not be a partisan issue. It's about freedom, transparency, and your sovereignty to hold your wealth. They're after Coinbase while they're storing money on Coinbase.
That is funny.
What? Like, the time is now. Whether you're in now, whether you're not in now, do yourself a favor and just educate yourself. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Discover Crypto. Kellam from BitLab Academy. We are sitting here with the main man giving us all the information that everybody wants to know and everybody needs. That's that institutional information. James Seyffart from Bloomberg. He's been the one keeping us all in the know about what's going on with these ETFs, probabilities, and actually educating this crypto world, educating us on what this means, what's going to happen. James, first question I want to ask you is, when you entered the fray of media, being an analyst with Bloomberg, did you ever picture yourself being, I don't want to say an influencer, but you've almost come into some notable fame in some way in this crypto industry. How has that changed or shaped your life?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for the kind introduction. When I went into research, I joined the research team, and I joined as an associate, and I worked in both ETFs and commodity strategy. And within the first couple weeks of working in commodity strategy, the commodities analyst asked me what I knew about Bitcoin, because he thought we should start covering Bitcoin. And I had gotten into Bitcoin personally in 2016. That whole thing was right off the bat. So people often think oh, I just got into Bitcoin in 2022 when the ETF started coming around. But no, I've been writing about the Grayscale products professionally and tangentially just covering digital assets as a whole since 2017. But yeah, it's been a little surreal, the finfluencer, I guess you want to call it, in a way. But yeah, there's a lot of people coming up to me that I don't know that are saying they're fans of my work and stuff. So that's been very cool. But my boss, who I've been interacting with and I've known for over a decade now, is Eric was already an ETF influencer long before I even had an active Twitter account. So I sort of rode his coattails in a way, but I'm the one that made us take we took the Bitcoin ETF filings more seriously than most of the other ETF analysts, if you will. We have a lot of competitors that work at different shops that are more independent, that kind of were just yeah, maybe we get the ETFs, it won't be that big of a deal. And I was the one that was no, these are going to be a huge deal. These are going to possibly break some records. And so Eric and I were more forward-looking and more I don't want to say bullish, but we're relatively bullish on the Bitcoin ETFs as a whole and just digital assets ETFs. So that has allowed us to everyone else kind of backed away and didn't really care as much aside from actual crypto publications. And by them backing off, it left a vortex for us to own it. And fortunate enough, we've been right a lot of the time. We've gotten some stuff wrong. Our odds in the Ethereum ETFs were arguably wrong, but we can get into that. But yeah, we've gotten a lot of stuff right and been fortunate enough to do it.
But you said something, the term finfluencer, which I actually very much appreciate, because what we've seen over this is one of the reasons why I went into the media side of crypto, because I've been involved, 2015, 2016 on, but there's I don't want to say ignorance. There's been a notable vacuum of true in-depth knowledge. Right? And so when we have people like you, James Seyffart, you have Eric Baltunas, then we also see other players, Gary Cardone, one of the people within our community as well, stepping in major ways, is not only signaling the broader acceptance that's really starting to take off, but now we have the Bitcoin spot ETF, now we have the Ethereum spot ETF, but we're getting notable people speaking with such in-depth knowledge about this, and I think, I don't even know where this is going, because Bitcoin launched, right? The spot ETF. I think even you and Eric, there was some resistance to, is the Ethereum, I think that one will likely get delayed. And then it just popped in out of nowhere, they just pushed it through.
Yeah, I will say two things. One, I find that there's two avenues of education where I am sitting at the center and I know enough about blockchain, Bitcoin specifically, digital assets, DeFi, and I also know a lot about TradFi. and you have a lot of the TradFi people shitting on DeFi type stuff, and they don't understand what they're saying. And then like you also have a lot of DeFi people shitting on TradFi stuff, and they don't know what they're saying. They're like trying to talk about what these ETFs are doing, and there's people putting stuff out, and it's like, that's not how any of this works. So I've been like sat in the middle of that. But what you're saying, yeah, for the Ethereum ETFs, so when we got the Bitcoin ETFs in January, we were like, okay, Ethereum ETFs are next. Their deadline is the end of May. And then nothing happened. Nothing happened.
It was crickets.
Yeah, so like with the Bitcoin ETF, as it kept getting closer and closer, we were getting more and more confident. We went to 90% in October, but every few weeks we were getting more information that this thing was gonna happen. Like it was constantly moving. The Ethereum ETFs, exact opposite. We were like, okay, they have to approve it now. If they don't, they're gonna lose in court. And sure enough, they did nothing. They did absolutely nothing. And we talked to all the issuers. I had BlackRock on stage at Consensus, and they basically said, yeah, we told our guys to stand down on Ethereum a month before it got approved because we were like, it's not happening. We're not going to waste our resources on it. And then all of a sudden, its due date was May, 25th. It was like a Thursday or a Wednesday. And on Monday afternoon and Monday late morning, all these issuers got calls from the SEC being like, looks like we're going to approve, after not talking to them for months about it.
Do you think that the needle is moved on that from, I don't want to say political pressure, but obviously yes. This election cycle, it's become, and I hate to say it, and to everybody watching right now, Bitcoin specifically, digital assets also, but Bitcoin specifically should not be a partisan issue. It's about freedom, transparency, and your sovereignty to hold your wealth, right? And so the fact that it's become a partisan thing, and Donald Trump is really moving the needle on this, I'm interested actually, we'll see in a couple days, are they gonna make a move regarding the, backing?
One day, it's tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. Yes. But Cynthia Lummis also just put in a bill as well, backing the US dollar or the reserve with Bitcoin. But there was radio silence. All the signals, all the things that you check in with, like you said, BlackRock told their team to stand down, and then boom, the whole landscape shifted, and I can't imagine it has anything to do other than a political nudge. Hey, we got to do this because we're getting our asses kicked.
All right, so this was going to be a long-winded response to that, but this
give it to us.
The TLDR is the political process. 100% was involved. How much was involved is up for debate, in my opinion. I think what the SEC was trying to do, they had sent Wells notices, basically saying they were going to sue Consensus, which is building a ton of shit on Ethereum. Yeah. They were after they're after Coinbase, they're after Kraken, they're specifically asking the Ethereum Foundation questions.
They're after Coinbase while they're storing money on Coinbase.
That is funny.
What?
But so they were after the Ethereum Foundation. So they were planning to deny the ETFs. They wanted to find some smoking gun, some smoking bullet to basically say like, this thing is a security. We can't approve these as commodity-based ETFs, which is what they are now. I think they were having a hard time finding information. They knew if they denied, they were going to have to go to court. And I think initially the SEC was okay with that. We'll go to court, we'll lose again, but we're going to kick this can down the road as far as possible. But then what you were hinting at, Trump had his NFT party in Mar-a-Lago in May 9th or 10th or somewhere around there, and talked about how he loved Bitcoin. He's going to be the Bitcoin president. The next week we had the SAB 121 vote in the House. We had a bunch of Dems flip there. The Senate approved the vote to repeal SAB 121, which basically prevented companies from holding crypto on their balance sheet, specifically banks. And then you had the Fit 21 Act, which was all happening around here, and you had Nancy Pelosi and a bunch of other House Dems joining that. So all of a sudden, whether or not it was 100% just political, or 90% political, or it was 10% political, it was definitely political into some regard, because I think the SEC knew they were going to lose a lawsuit if they denied it. But that was at play. But the problem is, right, so there's two options if it was political. It was, did the Biden admin call down and tell Gensler, like, look, we're not going to lose an election because you denied some Ethereum ETF. Like, who actually cares? Like, we're going to say we're pro crypto. They haven't done anything besides approve the ETF really to say that. But I don't think they wanted to lose on that argument. The other option is Biden, who handed over his financial agency control roughly to Elizabeth Warren so Warren stepped down and Biden promised her control over she can control who runs these different agencies, the SEC, the FDIC, some banking regulators, things like that. So that's Elizabeth Warren's control. That's why everyone says Gensler works with Elizabeth Warren. So theoretically, maybe Biden didn't make that call to Gensler. The other option is the way the SEC is set up, it's a 5-member commission. So it's 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats. Everyone knows Hester Peirce, she's one of the Republicans. Mark Ueda is another Republican. And then the president gets to choose the person in the center at the head of everything. That's Gensler right now. So we have 3 Dems. So anytime it's Dem versus Republicans, the Dems are going to get it done, the Republicans aren't. Theoretically, if you could sway one of those other Democratic commissioners, in this case it's Caroline Crenshaw, who she voted against the Bitcoin ETF and then wrote a dissent letter. Jamie Lizarraga voted against the Bitcoin ETF, but did not join her in her dissent. He just voted against it and did not join her long dissent letter. Jamie Lizarraga spent a decade working with Nancy Pelosi on the Hill. So if it was Congress or somebody in the Senate or the House that was leaning on these commissioners on the Democratic side, because they see the writing on the wall, they know that like the Bitcoin crowd, the crypto crowd is a voting bloc that should be taken seriously now. If they leaned on it and not Biden, it's still the same thing. Political machinations got involved to get this thing approved. So I think, like I said, whether or not it was 10% just getting it over the finish line to get this thing approved, or it was the bulk of it, it doesn't really matter. Political motives were at play in approving the Ethereum ETF, as far as I'm concerned, without a doubt.
I mean, but we have to celebrate the fact, how far this space has come over the last 14 years. It blows my mind. I remember 2 cycles ago, if there was even, because you'd get like a TV show that would mention Bitcoin. And the price would go up 30%, and also obviously much smaller market cap. But we're at a point now, it's like, I think the most asymmetric risk reward opportunity of, I think, multiple generations. It's like the time is now. Whether you're in now, whether you're not in now, do yourself a favor and just educate yourself. When people tell me, I remember 3 years ago, people would regularly say, Bitcoin, I could never, it's printed out of thin air. And I'm thinking, the dollars in your bank account are printed. There's been more money printed in the last 7 years that ever existed in the history of the world. And you're telling me Bitcoin's fake? No, it's backed by energy. But the point here is, we got the Bitcoin spot ETF, we got the Ethereum spot ETF. Somehow Solana shook off all the FTX drama, and rightfully so, and I was just talking to you about this before we went live. I had my own sort of cognitive dissonance, like because of that old association. I was like, you know what? It has the institutional nod. For whatever reason, they've got the right players involved. Do you think that there's, I don't think it's going to happen this year, but is there going to be another series of ETFs, Solana, maybe Chainlink? Is there going to be an index ETF of a basket of different, like what's the timeline that we're looking forward to for these types of things to develop?
Yeah, I mean, one, there's already a filing for an index ETF, and basically what it's going to start out, it's going to be market cap weighted exposure to Bitcoin and Ethereum, but in that document, it's from Hashdex. They're from, a lot of the guys are from Brazil that started the firm, but they're based out of New York and they have firms in the UK. They already have an ETF here. It was Bitcoin futures. They converted to spot. They have a filing, but the document says basically as soon as the SEC approves other digital assets, we're going to add them here on a market cap basis. So hopefully they're trying to get that approved this year at some point. So that's I think that's probable that that'll get approved. So you'll have an ETF that's spot exposure to both Bitcoin and ETH.
Is this going to be like the new 60-40 model?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, basically. So like if you're going to put a 10%, 5%, 3% allocation to crypto, I'm sure some advisors are going to be like, I'll just buy one ETF that gives me exposure to a market cap weighted basket, right? That's the way people think. Some people are all Bitcoin. Some people want more diversified exposure. Who knows, right? As far as Solana goes, we already have the filings. Van Eck is filed and 21 Shares is filed. 21 Shares is a big firm in Europe. They have partnered with ARK for their Bitcoin ETF. They also launched on their own an Ethereum ETF. Everything's done. Their final deadline is the end of March. So one, not happening this year. No shot. Two, I think it's also unlikely to happen and by their deadline at the end of March. But who knows? I mean, a lot of things kind of lean on what happens politically in November. Things are definitely heading in the right direction for the digital asset space, but if you follow precedent of what got the Bitcoin ETFs approved and the Ethereum ETFs approved, the SEC should deny Solana. But that precedent isn't written into law. That's just what Gary Gensler and this SEC administration has decided.
But you're saying this would be the deadlines in March, into March
of 2025.
So this, this is such an interesting landscape because we're in an election cycle year, and it feels like there's going to be two very different paths that's going to be almost accelerated if Trump's in, and probably somewhat truncated or slowed down if the current administration carries forward. So it's like it's two very different roadmaps. I could see like the basket, the indexes. I cannot. That's going to mark the real shift of the broader adoption, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think even if Trump is in, right? Even if Trump wins and he does all the stuff he's saying he's going to do for Bitcoin and digital assets, stopping the SEC from what they're doing to this industry. I mean, he comes in, I think, January 20th. Yeah. So and then you have to get a new SEC commissioner confirmed. He needs to get Gary Gensler out. Like, there's just not enough time between then and March, the end of March, to like get things changed to approve this stuff. Who knows? I won't say never. The other thing is like, you probably need like an act of Congress. You probably need a FIT 21 or some whatever variation the Senate's going to come up with for a market structure bill for Congress. Because the problem is, right, the SEC is in active litigation calling Solana a security in their lawsuit against Coinbase and their lawsuit against Kraken, which we've talked about already. But the question is Solana even a commodity, which is not settled law, right? And if it's not a commodity, it can't be structured the same way that the Ethereum and Bitcoin ETFs are structured. So like that kind of needs to get settled. Then also like, who has jurisdiction here? There's still a lot of infighting about whether the SEC or CFTC has control over some of this shit. So like, you need a lot of things to be settled. So I think 2025, especially if we get a Republican in the White House and we get a new administration at the SEC, I think it's likely, or not, I won't say likely, but it's very possible that we get a Solana ETF and we get like a better framework for like what is required to actually get these ETFs listed that hold other assets. Right now, you need a futures market that's regulated by the CFTC, and the only thing that has that right now are Bitcoin and Ethereum. So if you follow precedent, like I said, not happening anytime soon, I think that precedent will change over time. It's just a matter of how quickly will that change. And as far as even if the Dems win, I think that it's unlikely to be the case that they're going to do what they were doing before. I think, at the very worst, they keep doing what they're doing, and then we're neutral, right? It's table stakes for what it is. I think if Harris wins, I don't think she's going to be as harsh. I don't think Warren and the Warrenites are going to have as much power in that administration as they currently do. I think she sees the voting bloc, the power, the money, and she's not going to want to be completely against the space. I'm not saying she's going to be pro and open things up and open regulations and allow people to launch all the ETFs they want. But I think even that will be slightly more positive than what we've been dealing with for the last 3 to 4 years, which has been, in my view, completely ridiculous, arbitrary, capricious in the way they've handled this stuff. The courts are saying that. So yeah, that's my spiel.
But it's interesting too. Elizabeth Warren, we got John Deaton now also running for her seat, which is, if you don't know who John Deaton is, just Google his name. He's been massively part of the legal team for XRP, but also he's been moving the needle in the political sphere. And he's up for basically dethroning Elizabeth Warren's reign of terror. But I think we're starting to see. We're also seeing political action committees, crypto lobbying. We're starting to get the catalyzation because there's enough institutions that are involved with crypto now, especially even the whole mining industry it's becoming a major part of the traditional markets now. People are getting, exposure to Bitcoin through this proxy, and it's almost like a leveraged Bitcoin play because they're just continuing to add to their positions. But I couldn't be more excited about where we're at right now. I think that the foundation for the next 20 to 50 years is phenomenal. We're here. We got you, James Seyffart here. If you're not following James, I'll throw a link up on the screen. Make sure you go give him a follow. I do want to shout out these interviews powered by Arculus, our channel partners, best crypto cold storage solution out there. We actually were talking about this in the elevator. You saw my shirt. You have Arculus as well, don't you?
Yeah, I've toyed around with it. I got one at one of the events, and I've toyed around with it. It's pretty cool. I like the wallet and the basically credit card, the chip you need to do anything. It's pretty cool. It's cool tech. It's a unique way to do things. It's it's not as difficult as doing a traditional cold storage wallet, which is what I used to use back in the day.
Yeah. So thank you to our channel partners, Arculus, and thank you for being here. I appreciate you stopping by. Do you have anything you got going on that you want to share with the audience, or anything words of wisdom you want to?
No, I mean, I was telling you before, I've been covering this space professionally since 2017, late 2017. I've been personally interested in covering it for my own reasons, and since 2016. And if you told me back in 2017, 2018 that we'd have the Republican presidential nominee coming to give a speech at a Bitcoin conference. The independent nominee in RFK is very pro-Bitcoin. I've talked to him this week. There was possible that Harris, the Democratic nominee, was going to come speak here for a little while. There was talk of it. So, I mean, all of that is just like,
it's front and center.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. This has almost become like a political conference here this year because of what's going on. But we're in an election year, so I mean it's good. The industry's throwing their weight around. I think they're like the money that they have thrown around here at different politicians is they're funding more money than almost any other industry in the country. And I think that's because they've been malaligned. They've been hurt by the regulation via enforcement that the Biden admin has done. And I think it's going to be hard to come back from it, but hopefully, even if Harris does win, she doesn't continue down the path that the Biden admin was going down.
I mean,
there's a lot of fraud out there they can go after in the space,
dude,
and they continue to go after big players trying to do the right thing, which is what I have a problem with. They should go after the people that are doing blatant, easy fraud that you just see on Twitter and Telegram every single day. But
I agree wholeheartedly. Now, the last question before we go, being that you're at Bloomberg and you're also very integrated in the TradFi space. Is there a notable shift, or what's the temperature sort of change from, say, 2017, 2018 to now? Do you feel like there's an acceleration or a more openness in terms of just the TradFi people's even perception of Bitcoin and Ethereum? Because before it was like, oh, that crypto shit. Now
it's still that.
Is it?
There's a lot of people who, like, when they hated Bitcoin in 2017, they viewed it as tulips. They viewed it as vaporware. They didn't think it had any value. Those people, most of them, they haven't done any research. They just think of it the same way they did when they heard about it in 2017. There's a lot of people who are more neutral that have come around. I mean, just look at Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock. I mean, he was calling index of money laundering in 2018. He was saying bad things about it in 2021, and now he is one of the most ardent supporters on CNBC and Fox. So people change their minds, but I would say a lot of people in TradFi still aren't really changing their minds yet. But
that just means we're still super early. Bitcoin is not expensive at $68,000, $70,000, just like it wasn't expensive at 15, just like it wasn't expensive at 1,000. I remember all these levels, and we have these feelings. It's like, can it go higher? And then it drops, it resets. It's on a 4-year cycle, global liquidity cycle as well as a halving. And when you understand that it is a fixed supply, and almost 25% of Bitcoin has already been lost. So it's not even a 21 million fixed supply. It's going to be somewhere in the probably 15 to 18 million total supply. And as Gary Cardone says, there's 44 million millionaires in the world. Not even every millionaire can hold one Bitcoin because there's only 21 million Bitcoin. So we got a long way to go. It's just getting started, and I'm honored to sit here and have this conversation with you. I'd love to have you back on here in the near future and see what's going on with the markets. And this is our inside man. He's given us the goods, so make sure you give him a follow. I think that's all we got.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kelly.
Everybody hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding the bell. Thank you for being here. I hope you're all having a wonderful day here with James Seyffart here at the Bitcoin conference. Big love to you all. That's all we got. See you later.